business owners.
Okay, so here we are in the fourth quarter, and so we kind of want to touch on a topic of actual accounting and business and taxes to help you guys understand something here a little bit better. And maybe some of the individuals that are listening to this that are 5, 10, 20 years in business, you'll already kind of know what we're talking about. We'll try to have some fun with it, so still listen along. That doesn't mean, dip out. And if you do dip out, drop a review first. But this is going to be probably more so for the individuals that are maybe 1 to 5 years that are on the path to success, that might start making good money. Maybe you only make 30 a year right now, or 50 a year, or 60 a year out of your business. But when your business is actually starting to chug along and you're making decent money, and the idea is to keep reserves in the account, right? Your business bank account.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that you shouldn't take risks. I know that we've had an episode that said, screw your safety net or this, that, the other. But in business, you do need a little bit of a reserve. I think some people go a little too heavy on the personal side of things in some cases, and then they get scared of getting rid of their money, as we've talked about. And you guys know me and Keller are all about investments. That's what we've done.
Sacrifice,
all of it.
Right.
All of it. But we've had to go through some tough times tax-wise to get kind of where we're at. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is there's this thing called your basis. Mm-hmm. Okay, we helped a good friend up in Salt Lake save it was like 180 or no, it was 180 or $90,000 swing.
Crazy.
We did save him $110,000 that year in taxes. But his previous accountant had him owing like 70 or 80. So that's why it was the swing. So yes, it was 110, but there was a swing from the previous accountant.
That's right. I remember that now.
And the issue is our friend in Salt Lake, he invested a lot of money of his personal money into the business to get it going.
Right.
Let's say, for instance, he invested $200,000. It was probably more than that. But let's say it was $200,000. That's what's now known as his basis, right?
That's money he's already paid taxes on. It's his savings.
It's his savings. He's earned that money. He's paid tax on that money, and now he's choosing to start a business with that money. Mm-hmm. So let's say he opens up an LLC or an S corp or whatever and funds it with $200,000. His basis now, as an entrepreneur of that business, is now $200,000, meaning he could take $200,000 back out of his business tax free.
Right.
So that's his basis, right?
Yeah. There should be no liability on that basis.
So the issue is when he took money back out of the business, his previous accountant put it as dividends or draws and not necessarily factoring.
Classified it as new income.
Mm-hmm. Right? And so that was the big issue. And we saw that was just, he was taking his basis back out of the business, right? And so that was why there was a big swing. And we have an individual that reached out to Kel, good friend, saying, hey, like the business did really well. We've, got a couple bucks in the bank account, all that good stuff. But now I'm going to owe a lot of money in taxes.
Right.
Okay. So let's break it down like this. Let's say, for instance, you had an okay year as a business owner and you took $100,000 out of the business and you started the business at the beginning of the year with maybe, $0. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the year, let's say you got $100,000 in that business bank account and you earned $100,000. So the business profited, let's say $200,000, but you only paid yourself $100,000 out of that business. Since you are the business owner and you have access to that other $100,000 that's sitting in the business bank account, you actually have to pay taxes on that money that's sitting in the business as well, even though you're not touching it.
Right, because of the pass-through entity that it's most likely set up in.
Correct.
LLC, S corporation.
Correct.
Sole proprietorship, partnership, they're all pass-through entities.
And this is the issue that most people have with business is they don't want to pay taxes on money that they're not touching.
Right.
So a lot of them rape the business of all of its profits so that at least they touch the money that they have to pay in taxes.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So his income would look like he made $200,000 that year, when in reality he only paid himself $100,000 that year, because he has to capture that other $100,000 that's sitting in the business bank account and pay taxes on that. Now, let's say this individual is at a 30% tax bracket or 25%, let's say 25% tax bracket.
Right.
In other words, he's now got to pay, he or she, it doesn't matter, just the business owner. But I'm talking about the individual that we know. He would have to pay $25,000 in taxes on that $100,000 that's sitting in the business bank account, which sucks.
Right.
And we've done this year after year. I mean, there were years that we kept a couple $100,000 in the bank account, and then we would have to pay as partners. Right. I wouldn't have to pay on the full 200 because Kel's one of the partners.
Right.
Right. We would split that up. Let's say 4 partners own 25% each. We would each get a K-1 showing that we have to pay taxes on $50,000 because out of that 200, I own 25% of it. So I have to pay taxes on the $50,000 that's sitting in that bank account. And we did this so many years in a row to where we ended up growing to, 7-figure business bank account for a reserve so that we can buy a commercial building if we want. So we can buy an airplane at one point when we want.
Absolutely.
So we're willing to take it on the chin over and over and over and over.
And that is now our new basis.
And because we paid tax on that money, we now have 7 figures sitting in the bank account that we could take out tax-free.
Right.
Because over the years,
still our money.
It's still our money, but over the years, we paid tax on that through what's called a K-1 that you get at the end of the year. So a lot of young entrepreneurs get shell-shocked by this idea. Well, I only paid myself $50,000.
Right.
Where I only paid myself $100. Why do I have to show that I made $200 when I didn't make that?
Yeah.
Because that money in the business bank account's yours. The good news about it is as that account grows and you've paid tax on it over the years, again, you get to your basis can continue to increase.
Right.
So let's say you pay tax on that $100,000 that's now sitting in that business bank account. You paid the $25,000. Your basis is now $100,000 is what Kel just said.
Right.
Meaning you could take out up to $100,000 tax-free out of that bank account. Let's say you do the same thing the next year and the next year and the next year, and you do it 5 years in a row. Now you've got $500,000 sitting in your business bank account that you've already paid taxes on over the course of that 5-year period.
Exactly. And really it's for the long-term grade of your company. You know, it's really not money you can just take out unless you're wanting to shut your business down and completely rid it of all of its expenses and your people, which is something that you're probably not going to do. And so for us, here's the thing, man, you got to be strategic with your money. Nobody's going to care about your money more than you. You know, you probably have business partners, or if you don't, you have to understand some of these things because you have to have that cushion in there for the people in your company for the ongoing storms that will come.
Yeah.
You have to have that ready. You know, there's so many times I can think of thinking back of like, whoop, here's a new winter that if we didn't have our cushion, which was our basis, sitting in there to ride out that storm. Now, again, when you tap into that, now it's deductible too, right? So when you tap into that basis for expenses in your business, it is deductible. So now it's helping you in those other years pay less in taxes to weather those storms and to get through those hard times. But you still kind of got to pay your dues to get that cushion in your bank account, to have that operating account to keep you in business when tough times come.
Yes.
And it is going to happen. And so it's important to understand the rules of what we're talking about right now today, because if you don't understand it, most likely you're going to say, your accountant's going to tell you, because accountants don't know business. Their accountant's going to tell you like, well, just pass it all through to you and just start over for the next year.
Yeah.
Each one of your partners need to take a draw. If he owns 30%, he gets $30,000. If he owns 30%, he gets $30,000. Now you're bleeding your account. Well, what happens on February 2nd if you have a hard month? Now some of your partners went and spent that money. Now you're doing a capital call, and some of you don't have it. Now shit gets real messy.
Yeah.
Right? So for us, it was a part of our strategy to have money in the bank account at all times. I remember the day Jeremy came to me, very beginning, early stages, like, why do you think so many businesses go out of business, especially in this like industry?
They run out of fuel.
They live beyond their means.
They run out of fuel, and the fuel is money in business. That's just what it is. A car runs out of fuel, it stops.
It's really hard. It's really hard sometimes when you're the one partner, because Jeremy's been in that situation. I've been in that situation. We've all been in there where like, man, we got whatever, a few $100,000 sitting in the bank account, and there's always one of us. It's like, why can't we just take $100,000 draw?
Yeah,
right? It's like, dude, that's like only gonna keep us business in 3 to 6 months if we hit a hard time.
Yeah,
right. So we all have to be on the same page about this plan, but you're probably not going to get the best advice from your accountant on it because he's looking at it from a numbers perspective. Like, we'll just pass it all through to you and then start over for the year.